Welcome to The Breadwinners, the podcast about the never-ending hustle and its impact on all aspects of our lives. We're interested in what it takes to keep everything going. This podcast is about women, working, money, and family. We consider the research, talk to experts, and share our takes on what we're learning every day about breadwinning. I'm Jennifer Owens. I write about working, wellness, and women, and founded the Working Mother Research Institute. And most days I'm joined by my co-host, Raquel Ellison. Today, we're back for a special series, talking to guests about the challenges facing the sandwich generation, meaning those of us juggling kids, parents, and careers all at the same time. Dr. Mary Bell Carson, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Jennifer.
So, Dr. Carson, you are CEO of Chief Financial Mom and co-host of the Real Money, Real Experts podcast, and you teach personal financial planning at the University of Georgia and Texas Tech University. But your real claim to fame to me is that you started your finance career at age 16 when you started working as a bank teller in your hometown. So can you tell me a little bit about how that happened and how you avoided the McDonald's fryer?
Well, it's an easy answer. There was no McDonald's in my hometown. So there you go. It was that or Dairy Queen.
Yeah, it did. All right. So you were forced to work at the bank.
I was forced to work at the bank, right? Yeah, honestly, looking back, I don't know how I actually got the job. I just think that it was something I've always really liked. I always took more business classes. Now, mind you, let me back up for a second. I grew up in a really small town. In fact, I graduated, I think, with a whole group of maybe 70 folks. So there's like tiny school. Pretty much if you wanted to play a sport, i.e. if you had a tennis racket or golf clubs, you were on the varsity team. So really small. So my dad, I remember he worked, he banked at this bank, but I don't remember how it all came together that I actually wanted to work there, but I did. And I got I'm sure it's a little internship or something. And I just really enjoyed it and stayed on. In fact, funny story, I will tell you, I was a basketball player, as you probably can tell.
Because you had a ball.
I had a ball and I never made it past junior varsity. Unfortunately, even though I had a ball, I warmed that bench better than anyone else, though.
Oh, that was my volleyball career too. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yep. So I quit. I know this was hard, but I did quit the basketball team to work at the bank so I could work more often at the bank, which shows you just how good I was at basketball. But yeah, I've always had a love of money and people. And the bank really gave me that. So, and I will take us back in time for a minute. Now, when I'm saying bank, my town was a whole 5,000 people. So this was one of the only banks in town. And this was, I'm dating myself. This was before the time of computers. They had one computer in the entire bank, which ran on DOS from like the 1980s.
Yeah,
and
with like the
green writing,
like the cassette tape, or was it a floppy disk?
Oh, I think it was floppy. I think this was before cassette tapes.
When I was a ninth grader, there was one computer in our school, and it ran on like a cassette tape. I don't even what that was. So yeah. I think I'm older.
So in other words, I never used the computer. I still learned how to type on a typewriter, and we would use hand stamps. So I had a 10-key calculator, and I got pretty good at that 10-key, and we would hand stamp everything at the bank. So I would say definitely cut my teeth from the ground up and understood basic level how to really be a teller before computer times. But yeah, I remember thinking in my senior year, this was really fun to talk to people and talk about money. And so everyone kept asking me, when you're a senior, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. And then one day it hit me. I thought, money and people. Well, of course, I'm going to go to school and be a finance major because, of course, that's money and people. And I know everyone's laughing right now. Finance has nothing to do with money and people. It has everything to do with making corporations richer. But I didn't know that until about my junior year of college.
I don't know if I knew that either. Like I would.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even like a pathway of it. It's all really is about that.
It is. It's corporate finance. I mean, that's really what finance is.
Finance
so if you
is
go to
corporate
a business,
finance.
If you go to a business school, that's really what you're going to graduate in is corporate finance. And I had no desire making rich companies richer. In fact, So much so that in my undergrad, so I did work as a teller throughout my undergrad. Actually, I upgraded to Wells Fargo. They had computers back in the day. So I did learn a computer.
Wow.
I know, big deal. But that's how I put myself through college, is working there. And it was great. But I learned, so my junior year, I did not get accepted in the business school. So I went to BYU, and at that university, you had to reapply. So you got into the university, but then you had to reapply to get
Oh,
the
yeah.
finance program, right? And so I
Yep.
had gotten a B or a C. I don't know. I got my
Something that,
GPA was
oh,
like a
man.
3.6 instead of a 4.0 or whatever. And so I didn't get accepted. And this was the first time in my life. Here I am. My mom even called. She's like, she graduated salutatorian. Of course, mind you, it was like me and 3 other
Yeah,
people.
we don't have to know how many. There was only 6 people, but okay.
Exactly. But yeah, so my life kind of went in a tizzy because I was supposed to be entering as a junior. And I thought, oh my gosh, what do I do
Yeah.
with myself? And so I left. I was a political science undergrad because I really enjoyed politics. And I went to Washington, D.C. and interned on the Hill. So I went a total different change of life and thought, okay, maybe I'm going to go into politics. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I got to D.C. and realized politics was not going to be my
Yeah,
life calling
it's a
either.
particular calling, is being
And
able to,
it's pretty brutal. I would not say it's a lifelong career for most.
So interesting to get to see it, though, see it up
Yeah,
close. Yeah, I
absolutely.
completely agree.
So I went to the school that my sister was going to. I grew up in West Texas, and the biggest university close by was Texas Tech out in Lubbock, Texas. And I was looking at transferring there. It was going to be 6 years to get a bachelor's degree. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just crazy, right? I need a master's by the time I get that. So my sister was in the College of Human Families, Human Sciences, and getting her early childhood education degree. And one of the assistant deans there, was talking to my mom, and she was explaining the situation that she had this daughter in finance. And he said, well, come take this class in personal financial planning. But it wasn't in the business school. And so I said, well, it sounds interesting. I have no idea what financial planning is.
Yeah,
And
where was it?
it
What
was in
school?
human sciences. So it's Texas Tech, and it was in the College of Human Sciences. And Vicki Hampton, who actually just retired this year, taught that class and just set a trajectory for my future career. So I had that class with several professors that are legends at that school, Dottie Durbin, Bill Gustafson, et cetera. And they just laid a great foundation for me. So I fell in love. That was where I learned about taxes and retirement and investments and all the things. I remember talking to my dad about it and saying, hey, Dad, how did you learn about all this stuff, right? Was it just one day you got married and suddenly you knew about retirement? And he laughed and said, oh, honey, that's called the School of Hard Knocks. Well, I
Yeah.
knew real quick I did not want to go to that same school. So here I was getting this degree. And so I quickly realized there is no way I'm going to spend 6 years getting a finance degree in undergrad and have to go back. So I left, went back to BYU, graduated in 6 months or 3 semesters, whatever it was, and got my degree. So my undergrad's actually in political science. And then went forward and ended up doing my master's degree at Texas Tech in financial planning. And that just put my life on a completely different trajectory. But it was that perfect marriage of money and people, which what I was looking for when I was working at the bank.
Yeah, because you often like the certified financial planners, that comes after college, right? I actually never thought of
Yeah.
what the undergraduate degree would be, or what the traditional 4-year degree approach is to personal finance.
Yeah. So with certified financial planners, you actually have to have a degree of some sort, a bachelor's degree. But in order to sit for the exam, you have to have a specific degree in a certain subject to test out, or most often what people do are take what we call education classes. So you can either do it through a certificate, you could get a master's degree, or now they have undergraduate degrees in financial planning. And there's 6 areas that you have to study and take classes in it before you can even sit for the exam. So yeah, that's what I did. In order to sit for the exam, I had to go, or I went through this master's program and then sat for the exam. I actually got the accredited financial counselor exam first. I was able to get that while I was still in school. And so financial counseling is
Take that,
different.
BYU.
Yeah. So no political science here, but lots of financial planning. And eventually I went back and got my doctorate in financial planning, specifically in the world of financial therapy.
Yes, what is financial therapy?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Financial therapy is rather new. So it started right around, we had our first conference in 2010. Really, it was a bunch of academics as well as some from the medical community, lots from the therapy community, kind of getting together and saying, hey, this is not financial planning. We have individuals. So let me use an example. For example, hoarding or gambling, right?
Right.
While they could be financial in nature, gambling, I think, especially is obvious how that's financial in nature. It's also diagnosable. So it's a DSM for those that are therapists. You can actually diagnose gambling just like you can diagnose hoarding. And so with that, you have to work through or with a therapist or have some kind of therapy background to work with someone in that situation. Now it's much more expanded and there's many things. So this is financial therapy is really helping change maladaptive behaviors and including financial to become more holistic and more understandable in that human financial side. So it's really the relational side of money and the
Yeah.
behavioral side of money, less about the technical side, more about how it interacts with you and those around you.
Because we all know we grow up with assumptions about
Oh,
money,
yeah.
that are generationally baked into us. So yes.
Hmm. And
And
there's
then
a
we partner with somebody else who has his own ideas about finances, and then, like, oh,
So there's a
yes.
name for that actually, and it's called money scripts. Dr. Brad Klontz has created this. In fact, you can take it. I'll give you the links to include in the show notes, but it's a survey you can take and find out about what are these scripts you learned early on as a child that are influencing your thoughts and your behaviors behind money and why you interact with money the way you do now as an adult that started, quite honestly, even early in childhood.
Oh.
Yeah.
I already feel like the shell around my money heart, like, closing up, like, I don't wanna know.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's easier ways. So let me back up for a second because I think a lot of people are very protective or just scared, right? We
Yeah.
don't really talk about money. And if we do, it's usually not in a positive or good frame. And so
Oh.
with that, I think one of the best ways to start conversations about money is talking about what we call money history. And that's simply asking a question. So in a spousal relationship, I'll use that as an example. My poor husband. On his second date with me, we actually started talking about finances, which was totally fine with me, not so much for my therapist husband.
Oh,
He was
no.
not. Amazingly, he still asked me to marry him. But yeah, so I think that's what it started as. And really, what it came down to is we started talking about, well, how did you grow up with money? And
Yeah.
then I would share my background and he would share his. And it was just amazing as I've seen now. So, just one example, he grew up at times very poor. He remembers sleeping in his car, not having a roof over his head, not having enough
Mhm.
food on the table. And he remembers being hungry. And so that absolutely impacts. In fact, we were just at the dinner table 2 nights ago talking to our three girls, and he turns to him and says, we were talking about our blessings and all these great things, and our kids grew up totally middle class. And he said,
Yeah.
Dad remembers not eating. And he said to him very clearly, he said, I will never let that happen. And no matter what happens, you will always have a roof over your head and food on the table because he remembered that is a trigger for him. So when
Mhm.
it comes to like groceries or things like that, he's actually excellent at sticking to the budget and staying with it because he knows we only have so much and he's able to stay with it. So it's amazing how it plays out in his habits and his behavior and even his
Right.
insecurities, all from those memories as early as childhood that have helped shape his development around money.
Oh, for sure. We have similar stories, the generation above us, and especially with college now part of our lives. It triggers a lot of conversations about for my mom, remember, because she put herself through
Hmm.
college and yet she went late so she could earn money and graduated on time, which was one of her points of pride, and all these things so that now looking at her granddaughter going to college, knowing what it's like to not be able to afford books, so
Hmm.
that was her graduation gift was money for books.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
to our daughter, it's not that I mean, she gets it. You can hear the stories and comprehend the stories, but you don't viscerally get the stories. That
Mhm.
where this is fully coming from. I think as years go by, she'll understand it more. I don't know, viscerally. It's just that kind
Right.
of feeling because your grandmother tells you stuff, and you're like, "Oh, thanks, grandma."
Right. Right. Well, and so there's this concept too in the world of finances called shirts to sleeves. And essentially, what that means is within 3 generations, wealth will be gone from a family. So, let me use an example. What it is someone who's pretty much impoverished, right, rises to some kind of wealth. So, they're a business person, they're a self starter, they create this business. And what it's saying is within 3 generations, so not their children, but their grandchildren, that money will have disappeared, no matter how much it is. We're talking millions, right?
Yeah,
And that is because of what you just explained is in their head, they've heard the stories and things, but they haven't lived. They weren't the ones that were working in the rice paddy or the sweatshop or wherever that
right.
difficult situation was. They were the ones that came up in this privileged state. And so they don't connect with that. And I think a more applicable example for those of us that aren't in that wealthy realm are our own grandparents, right? If you had a grandparent that lived through the Great Depression, I remember my grandmother very clearly. She would cut the corner off a moldy cheese and keep eating it. Yogurt,
Oh,
you just scooped off the top and you kept going because she remembers
yeah, not
being
having food.
without
Yep.
and not having food. Yep.
Yeah, it's true. And then you can totally see how the next generation sees it, either grew up with that person and heard those stories every day or was party to it. And then the next one, you work so hard to protect
Mhm.
the next generation. And then
Mhm.
they don't get the thrill of living out of their car.
Right. Right.
Like, yay.
Yeah.
Well, now, how does this all bring you to chief financial mom?
Well, so fast forward, I went through a lot of different. I left the bank and became, oh goodness, I worked as a lobbyist. I worked as a financial planner for a short time. I went to the Pentagon for several years. Ended up getting my PhD and coming back to DC, working for another association. Then I got married. And we had kids. That first year, I had my first daughter, and I started to realize at the time I was traveling constantly, and my husband and I knew that that wasn't the life we wanted. So I
Mm,
thought, okay, I'm going to quit and stay home with my kids and just start my own business. So I had a couple of government contracts and would work with government employees. But I wanted my own business and I wanted something to start. And so in popped, I remember very distinctly with my first daughter getting a bombardment of diapers and wipes and clothes. And it seemed like every time I clicked on anything, it was more advertising and it was all to moms. And yet I never saw anything that was financially educating. It was just buy, buy, buy. And it didn't seem like there was ever an end to that. And so, as I'm slothing through those first few months after childbirth and trying to nurse and just all that crazy, amazing, but exhausting time of life, I thought, I want to help other moms. I feel that, and I've always felt this way, that I've been given this opportunity to have this wonderful education, that I didn't have to go through the school of hard knocks, and that everyone needs to know this. And yet, so few get that opportunity. And so it was my way of giving back and just saying, hey, here's an educational platform for moms and the opportunity to learn more without being advertised to out the hilt and told to buy
yes.
some more stuff.
Oh, and so what kind of topics are you looking at on the site?
Oh, we cover a range. So I cover everything that's financial planning. In fact, our free giveaway is questions to ask financial planners because I get that a lot, especially with
Yeah.
people who are looking to do financial planning. And let's talk about that for a second because I think this is an important distinction. Anybody can hang out a shingle and call themselves a financial planner. So there's a lot,
Sure.
or advisor. I mean, I don't care how you scope it, financial coach, whatever. But it's kind of like a layers of an onion. You kind of have to peel back to see where the wolf in the sheep's clothing is.
Yeah.
And so it really helps to know and understand, especially when you're not comfortable with money. It's helpful to ask really good questions because then you can really get a sense of the person that's just selling you a product or someone
Mm.
who's giving you realistic good advice. And it could be both. They could be selling a product and giving good advice, but it needs to be someone that you trust, not just the first person you find. Listen to this in a phone book. I should say
Yeah,
on
I
Google
know.
now. But it shouldn't be the first person yet. So often, the way we do that is kind of like how we find our doctor. Well, does someone know a good financial planner? Oh, yeah,
Right.
so and so uses them. Okay, well, I'll use them too. And I think women, especially, are often cut out of these conversations for multiple reasons. Whether it's their own insecurity or whether it's a male talking to another male and I don't know, we talk our financial language. And I think sometimes that scares people away. And
Mhm.
yet, same time, women are such a force. I mean, so often, and this is part of your podcast, right? The breadwinners, or even more importantly, the ones with the checkbook, or now
Yeah.
today, a debit card or credit card. But they're the ones behind the scenes paying the bills and making it happen. And really, they are vital. They're not there clipping coupons, but they're there really with the breadth and depth. And many times in a family, if the mother were to be gone or disabled or something happened, that was the person that ran the finances. So it's really important to
Yep.
have those conversations.
And why the moms, do you think? Like, I feel like there
Sure.
is a sense of we are the ones that run the budget, but is it the larger arching world of the finances? And could you tell I'm speaking from experience that there's a difference between budget and the whole financial picture of our family?
Mhm. Absolutely. And, I don't want to stereotype because I know
Yeah,
every
no,
family is different
right.
too. And that's really important to take into perspective. And that's why I'm not a big fan of big box names that tell everyone to do the same thing at the same time. This is why we call it personal financial planning, because it is a really personal thing, even between two spouses. It's a very personal thing. And so, one of the reasons that the name that I picked was Chief Financial Mom is from the idea of a CFO or CEO.
Mhm.
Really, moms, a lot of times, are the CEO of their home, right? They're the
Right.
executive decision makers. They are running the kids. They are, doing the schedules. They're making the food. They're doing so. They're going to work, whatever the situation may
They're also
be.
the admin, but
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, and let's be honest, during the pandemic, I was the lunch lady, the teacher,
Yeah.
you name it, I was it, right? The cleaning lady, all of it. And so I feel like with that, that's why moms are so vital, is they're already the center of their little nuclear family's universe. And so it's not like you can pull money out of it. And I want to talk about that for just a second, because
Sure.
money is a resource. It is a tool. And we so often give so much emotion and feeling to an inanimate object, right?
Mhm.
And there's so much that comes with that. But if you step back and look at it, it's instead of bartering chickens, we barter with money, right?
Sure.
And yet we
Yep.
give so much onus to that. And there's so much angst and anxiety around it. So sometimes it's good to step back and say, whoa, okay, this is our resources, and all resources are limited: time, energy, sleep, whatever the
Mhm.
resource may be, money. And so how do we utilize that for the best needs of our family specifically? And so yes, you're right. While many times the quote unquote budgeting may be just the mom running that side of it, I think it's so important to look at how cash flow, I'm going to use an even larger term, beyond just budgeting or spending plans. Cash flow is vital for investments. If you don't have positive cash flow, you're not going to be saving. You're not going to be
Right.
putting money in retirement. You're not going to be investing. We've all got to pay taxes. So it has such an implication, all of the other things. I think of cash flow as kind of the base of the triangle. And then everything kind of builds up from there. And that's why it's such an important base to have.
Right.
With that same thought, I will tell you most of my early years were spent in the Pentagon and on military installations. And that was a very unique perspective, because this was during the global war on terror. And so in these situations, a lot of times the soldier was male, and or could be female, but if it was male, the spouse was staying home and not just responsible for the children and all of the responsibilities that comes from being home, but mostly the finances, because he was
Mhm.
deployed
Right.
overseas He had no control of the bank. I mean, when they're
Yep,
overseas, they are on 24 hours a day.
for
There's no
sure. Yeah.
time to go pay bills, right?
Right.
And so it left the spouse doing all of those things beyond just bill paying and beyond just budgeting. And so that's kind of where my world, when I saw how vital it is that women know and understand and are comfortable discussing money with or without a spouse,
Hmm.
because quite easily there were some that never came home. And now she's
Right.
fully responsible for all those decisions, both short term and long term.
Yeah. That puts it in stark relief, of being in charge and informed and feeling comfortable with making these
Mhm.
decisions.
Mhm.
Well, now how about our kids? Like it's that's something. So my kids are teens now and
Mhm.
talk a lot about money. We talk about earning your own money and the like. And I still feel we haven't unlocked all the conversations around money. Like we don't talk about our worries about money with our kids,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And it's like how to have how to impart those lessons, like so that they aren't the third generation that it's
Right.
all screwed up.
Right. And I think that's important that one, that you know your kids, right? So every child's different, every relationship is different. And I think, just like you said, your kids are on the older spectrum, mine are on the just beginning spectrum. And there's different things that you want to talk about them. Yours are more mature and maybe can handle some higher level conversations. I will say the other day, and you have these conversations and you don't even realize you're saying them, but we just bought a new house this year. We've had new roof. Literally, we've
Oh,
been throwing up money,
it's
right?
awful. I'm
Just to
so
the point that you're
sorry.
like, okay. And my 6-year-old must have overheard us saying this, because one day she comes into me and she brings us her piggy bank and goes,
Oh
"Here,
no.
mommy and daddy, you can have some of my money and I'll help you out." And
Oh
I
my
thought,
gosh, that's
oh my goodness.
awesome.
Well,
Well, how much money do you have, sweetheart? Because we'd
three
like a
pennies.
copper roof.
But the thing is, I don't want to also I don't want her to be worried. I don't need
Right,
her staying up at night worrying that mom and dad can't pay for the roof for the house or whatever the situation may be. Right. And
right.
so there needed to be appropriate developmental stages as well. Whereas we probably aren't going to talk to our 6-year-old about the things we worry about, it may be really important to talk to your college age student about
Yeah.
it and have those conversations. I think what's really important with kids is that you're having conversations. And when I say conversations, I don't mean where you're in the store and they're saying, "Mom, can I buy this?" And you say, "No, we can't afford it. Let's go." All right. That's
Yeah.
not a conversation. What I mean by conversations is talk about it, just like we talk about all kinds of things in this day and age. Everything. There's a book called Your Money or Life, and it says that we talk more about our sex lives than we do our financial lives. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important, that we talk about money and maybe start with how you grew up around money, right? That may be a good place to start with your kids, or maybe their earliest money memory. Or one of my favorites, what does money smell like to you? And you'll find people have different answers with how they grew up, with their history, with what makes them them, and how they view not just the world, but how they specifically view money.
That is interesting. It is very interesting to see an 18-year-old essentially on her own for the first time
Mhm.
and with a nice safety net underneath her. But she's making her own money. She's got a work study job. She's doing all that she's supposed to be doing and studying and going to class, but hoarding every penny. Like we're like,
Interesting. Yeah.
you can spend a little money, sweetie. Like she's got her hand gripped so tight around the few dollars that she has. So, and you don't want to discount, you don't want her to be like, buying tickets to Aruba or something, but she could spend a little.
Well, and I think that's maybe the conversation you have. So instead of making a statement like, "Oh, you could spend a little more," ask her. Ask her an open ended question and say, "Talk to me. I've noticed that when we go out, right, you
Yeah.
order only an appetizer, or I don't know, whatever the conversation may be. Talk to me more about that. Are you concerned? What are your thoughts around money, and why do you maybe hold it a little tighter?"
Because, you assume but as they
Mm-mm.
get older, that you realize that they have their own thoughts. Which is
Absolutely.
so, you're always surprised whenever your children reveal their true selves to you, like when they're 6, when they're 10, it's just
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, I didn't realize you had an opinion about that."
Right. Or what you've picked up on, right? So children sense this too very
Yeah.
early on. If there's dysfunction or discord or whatever, if you're fighting about money, they sense that and they can tell. And so it's important to talk about it. And it doesn't need to be a heated battle,
Yeah.
but it needs to be conversations and making it normalized and okay to talk about it. I think that's what's so important. And I don't mean just as children, even as adult children. I
Yeah.
will say now, it's interesting to be in this phase of life now where my parents are, I hope they don't listen to this, but getting on up in years. And they know that estate planning is, I know estate planning is really important.
It's
And I'm
very
harping at them
important.
all
Yeah.
the time on this, but we still don't talk about money.
I
It is
know.
very like, stay out. This is our business, will not. And I think that's so interesting. And I can see generationally how that's happened in their family and their family. So if you're looking to break a cycle, the best thing you can do is ask questions, start talking about it. Ask your siblings, talk to your spouse, talk to your children. The more you bring something into the light, it's like the more you're able to open it up and really get to the heart of it. It's like the spaghetti noodles, right? You've always heard like, why does someone break spaghetti noodles in half? Well, because it didn't fit in the pan. And it
Yeah.
could be something as silly as that around money, but it could be something even deeper, like I shared earlier with my husband, some pretty deep
Right.
seated issues that have gone back for generations, but we never knew why.
Oh, well, Dr. Carson, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
I've got the questions to ask, and she's 2 days away from visiting, so I'm gonna be prepared.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, thank you for joining me on the Breadwinners. I'm so glad to have you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Breadwinners. I encourage you to email us anytime at thebreadwinnerspod@gmail.com or visit us at thebreadwinnerspodcast.com. Please remember to subscribe and to rate and review us. It really helps us grow. And until next week, keep hustling.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.